Just a few weeks ago, Magenta Pixie did a roundtable talk with Becky Parkes and McCarty entitled Discernment and the Truth and Lightworker Communities. I didn't know who Becky or Jen were, but after listening to these ladies in the first 15 minutes, I thought this is on point, so I'll go ahead and read it for you now. Beginning with Magenta Pixie at 1 minute and 38 seconds. This kind of came together organically. We all had similar ideas at the same time, didn't we? It wasn't sort of one of us that decided this. We all together at different times thought we would discuss basically discernment. There's such a lot of confusion going on right now in the Lightworker, truth, and spiritual communities regarding who is who, who's telling the truth, who's not telling the truth, who's controlled opposition, who isn't controlled opposition. Is there anyone who is controlled opposition? And the fact that whenever we get together and do any kind of roundtable interview, we're sometimes discredited in the eyes of others by the guests that we share that roundtable with, because some people decide that we are okay, but our guests are not, and vice versa. And all of us are spiritual, leaders, YouTubers, content creators, guides, whatever you want to call us. We've all actually been warned about one another in the last couple of months. And well, that's actually been going on longer, but it's really ramped up lately. And I think the reason for that is there's so much going on. There's this deluge, this flood of information coming from all areas, hijacking everywhere. But there's also a lot of high-level truth and love and assistance running through this hijacking, all merged together. And discernment has never been more important, crucial than it is now. Jen McCarty, at 3 minutes and 23 seconds, says, "It's such a wonderful opportunity for us to come together and talk about this because, like me and you are good friends. And, we chat about this and we share sort of like updates about what's going on. But it's actually nice to take it out of that context and make it public, what we're talking about. And yeah, I'm just feeling a little bit frustrated at the moment with the extent to which this is happening. And I do wonder if it's sometimes at the root of it, if it's a bit of jealousy and ego from other truthers who don't want people to listen to anyone other than themselves. And it's like, have you actually done the work on yourself? You've got a platform, you're guiding people, but there's real shadow stuff coming up. So I personally would be like really getting red flags around those people that are flagging up other people all the time, because to me it's like, we're here to spread love, and we're here to uplift each other. And oftentimes when you come out with a message like that, it can be very the opposite of expansion, and it can be very, very constrictive, and it can cause us to shut down. And someone wrote a comment on one of my posts the other day, and they said, a spiritual leader, when they speak, or a spiritual teacher, you will just feel comfort in their vibrating, in the vibration of their voice, and you will come to your center, and you will experience that expansion. And I just think it's so important that everyone uses their own discernment when they're being faced with new people. Is that person affecting your heart? Is that person helping your consciousness expand? Helping your heart expand? Are you getting goosebumps? Are you feeling an emotional resonance with that message? And if you are, then I genuinely believe you've made a soul contract to receive that message at that time from that person. And I don't think anybody really has the right to go around and discredit that, because that's a personal soul agreement that you have made with that particular way shower. I myself wouldn't dream of exposing anyone or using my platform to say about this person and that person, because to me that seems very, very low vibrational. And it seems like creating a separation, the energy of separation. And it isn't actually creating unity, which is what this is all about. So yeah, I think I've opened up lots of interesting points if anyone else would like to jump in. continuing with Becky Parkes, speaking at 6 minutes and 1 second. Thank you, Jen. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that not only in the sort of work that we do, but in every walk of life, we're used to making snap decisions and judgments on people. And those are coming from, we decide whether something is good or bad, right or wrong, whether someone's beautiful or ugly. And we do that from a point of ego, mind base, with a sort of mind control and parameters that we've been trained to think through. And they don't really serve us very well. It's really important to try and connect with your inner self, to connect with your higher self, and start to intuit what feels right or wrong. Talking about the difference between judgment and discernment. Judgment is where we make our snap decisions, and it's very much mind-based, and it's very much from a place of I'm right and you're wrong, and that's putting yourself above someone else, and there's just no need to do that with the work that we're doing. Absolutely everyone has got something to bring to the table. Absolutely everyone has got skills and qualities. Some people are strong in one area, some people are stronger in another area. We don't need to. There's room for everyone. There's room for everyone to share their own little bit of knowledge or experience or understandings on the matter. And then that can perhaps help one or two people, or hundreds or thousands of people. That's fine. There's just no need to try and put others down because either you don't agree with them or you just don't want to share some sort of platform or limelight with them. Back to Magenta at 8 minutes and 11 seconds. Yeah, absolutely. I just want to say that you said it, Jen, about you would have no intention of flagging people or outing someone. You wouldn't want to do that. And I agree with you. When I first started to channel publicly, when I made the very first video for YouTube, the Nine said to me really early on, right from that first video, they didn't say don't. They basically advised me in their way that they communicate not to ever publicly run down other lightworkers, that you are a team, and it's very, very important to hold the frequency for that team, even if they may say something that you don't agree with. So I listened to them, and I took their advice, and if there was anything I would hear that another starseed or lightworker had said that I disagreed with, I would say to the Nine, I'd speak to them. I wouldn't come on a video and say, right, so-and-so just said this, what a load of rubbish, I'd speak to the Nine, and they would show me the reason why that person held that thought. Now, sometimes, in fact, I would say over 90% of the time, the thought was actually an accurate thought coming from an accurate seed point, as in their premise of the way they were thinking. But they hadn't explained it in a certain way, or so many people have misunderstood it, or they used not the wrong word. There's no wrong word, but the Nine have always taught me to be very, very careful about the words that I use to describe that particular frequency. And my father did this his whole life, so I learned from him. He would actually stand in front of the family and take sometimes 20 minutes to say 3 sentences, because he would stop and wait for the absolute right word. It used to drive my mother up the wall. She would moan, your father, why can't he just say it? But I'd just sit there as a little girl and just think, Daddy's amazing, and I would start to do it. So my whole life, I've tried to look for the right word. So by the time the Nine came in to teach me this, it was even more important that I found the right word. So often a lot of these spiritual teachers would just be using words that are not the most aligned for the frequency that they were trying to describe. And then there were a few others that had had experiences, traumatic experiences in their past, and those traumatic experiences were clouding. So in all my sort of journey since being online 12 years ago and meeting all these different or seeing all these different spiritual teachers, I've had suspicions about the odd person because I thought, okay, that didn't quite resonate with me, and I've spoken to the Nine about them. So, but even in that, even when there are individuals who are giving information that could be taken the wrong way very easily, giving information that simply isn't true, but they think it is. In all of that, in 12 years, I had only ever come across one person who's genuinely part of the deep state cabal and is genuinely controlled opposition. And I was aware of this person 2 or 3 years ago. Even then, I didn't come on and out this person and make a video and say, right, everyone, this person's saying they're a spiritual teacher, but actually they're deep state. I didn't do that because I was told not to by the 9. Even when they actually are a controlled opposition, it's not my place to tell everyone. That's their discernment. That's their discernment to discover this for themselves. Only recently, in the last 3 weeks, have I actually discussed this person as a potential without actually naming this person's name, but giving clues, because I'm still not going to do that. But I'm giving clues for those who can understand the clues, simply because this person has a potential thread now into the political scene, and because this person is publicly condemning that which is true, such as, for example, the letter that comes after P. This person is actually really sort of saying that this is a derogatory source. So because that person is saying that that's a dark, source, as a spiritual teacher with a big following, only then did I come in to counteract that as a shield to the source that I know holds truth. So I personally would not be outing anyone, and I've also come across other spiritual teachers that are not necessarily saying things that are fully in truth, described in the best way that they can be, but the person either thinks they are or has been traumatized. Or some teachers will actually talk about something as if it's happened in real life, when it's actually happened in a very deep lucid dream, and those teachers actually think it's real. So in all this time, only one. And the 9 actually discussed this, the sort of infighting with the Lightworker community. They discussed this in one of my books, The Black Box Program and the Rose Gold Flame as Editor. And they actually said that yes, there is hijacking in the spiritual community and in the religious communities and in the truth communities. That's true. However, it's nowhere near as widespread as people think it is. And the reason for that is because of the infighting that happens naturally by all the different people trying to defend their position and their truth. They are doing the cabal's job for them. So they don't need to throw in a load of controlled opposition. And this is the past. It's not quite like that so much now. Things are in a better place. But going back a little while, the cabal could just look at the truth community and Lightworker community and think, we don't really need to send any controlled operatives in there because they're all fighting anyway. They're all in a state of division. They're doing the job for us. Now, since this whole sort of March 2020 pathogen and shutdown and all that, now we are starting to come together despite all these attacks and infighting and lack of discernment and spiritual teachers calling one another out. Despite that, there is more unity. And what I see is, and Jin is quite significant in that. Well, I know you are too, Becky, and so am I, but I'm talking about the Lightworkers and the Starseeds coming together with the Truthers. So we've got people who are experts in finance and science and medicine coming together with people that are experts as channels and psychics, and that I see more of, which is wonderful, because that is creating this lack of discernment. Is you've got somebody who completely agrees with the financial line of things or the scientific line of things, but thinks the spiritual is complete nonsense. So when they see perhaps me talking with someone like, say, Charlie Ward, for example, they're going to think, what, Charlie, what have you got, or Jen, what have you got this fluffy spiritual woo-woo person on your grounded round table to discuss finances? But the people who are sort of more in the spiritual movement are going to think, well, Magenta, Jen, Becky, why are you talking to someone who isn't really in the Lightworker community and is talking about all this sort of wheeling and dealing in finance? So they're not able to open themselves up to these different subjects, these different topics. And of course, this is a reset on every level. This is an ascension process and an upgrade on every level. We must come together to represent our communities. End transcription at 17 minutes and 30 seconds. I'll put a link in the description box to the whole interview. It's a little over an hour long, but it is worth a watch or a listen if you're interested in learning more about these beautiful ladies. Alrighty, thank you so much for listening. Take care.